Wow.
Yeah, recording is started. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. You may start the session with this How to Love God, Jai, Ashok.
Karthik, can you send a message to uh, Telegram for joining? I have some issues here.
Oh, okay. I will. I will.
Okay.
The same link, right? You want the link, basically.
Ah.
Yeah. Ashok, kindly start How to Love God.
Yeah, okay. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. How to love God. To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our own dear ones, we love God. 1. If instead of seeing faults in others, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. 2. If instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. 3. If we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. 4. If instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many, many others, we are loving God. 5. If we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. 6. If we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. 7. To love God as He ought to be loved, we must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of all life is to love God and find Him as our own self. By Meher Baba.
Baba ki Jai.
Utar Meher Baba ki Jai. Thank you, Karthik.
Sure. Uh, so, welcome back to session number 3 of God Speaks. And hope all of you have done some sort of preparation. Let's just check if somebody has spent any time on researching or listening to the last sessions, or like Kama suggested, reading up a bit so that you are comfortable, and reminding so that it makes your experience better. So instead of treating it just like a weekend exercise, it becomes a lot more productive and easier if you spend at least half 1 hour to 2 hours during the course of the week just brushing up on this, because it refreshes our understanding. And also, in a live session, you're not able to sometimes get aspects that you can surely understand better when you just listen to the recording again. Thankfully, we have just done in the last 2 sessions the introduction, and literally we are starting with the reading of part 1 just now. So, I mean, we started and stopped in page 3 at this point. But what I suggest is, without pauses, I mean, without pauses till we reach that point, I will read again so that there is some continuity. But feel free to stop me and we can discuss anything even during the first part. Would that be okay with all? And
Yeah, yeah.
Mamaji, are you back with your uh, connectivity problem sorted?
No, I am online with my mobile, but not on my system. Okay, I am fine.
Okay, the
Let me
reason
able to hear.
Yeah. The reason I don't want the settings of Telegram to be set to delete is it also acts as a repository from day one. So if you go back, you have everything we have done from 2020 in one place. And to a patient and hungry Jivatma, we have the full history in one place. So I'd rather keep it without deleting the history so that one can use hashtags. Unlike WhatsApp, uh, on Telegram, you can use a hashtag and discover content, and the search is super useful. And of course, there are many other features. I'm not trying to promote one messaging system over the other. But I saw you changing the setting, but that's the reason why I reset it back twice. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with our reading. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. As I said, we are doing part one from the beginning again. States of consciousness. All souls, Atmas, were, are, and will be in the Oversoul Paramatma. Souls, Atmas, are all one. All souls are infinite and eternal. They are formless. All souls are one. There is no difference in souls or in their being and existence as souls. There is a difference in the consciousness of souls. There is a difference in the planes of consciousness of souls. There is a difference in the experience of souls, and thus there is a difference in the state of souls. Most souls are conscious of the gross body, Sthula Sharira. Some souls are conscious of the subtle body. A few souls are conscious of the mental body, mind or mana. And a very few souls are conscious of biggest self. Most souls have experience of the gross sphere, world. Some souls have experience of the subtle sphere, world. A few souls have experience of the mental sphere, world, and a very few souls have experience of the oversoul, both O and S in capital. Most souls are on the gross plane, Annabhumika. Some souls are on the subtle plane, Pranabhumika. Few souls are on the mental plane, Manobhumika, and a very few souls are on the plane beyond the mental plane, Vigyan. Most souls have great binding. Some souls have little binding. Few souls have very little binding, and a very few souls have absolutely no binding. All these souls, Atmas, of different consciousness, of different experiences, of different states, are in the Oversoul, Paramatma. If now all souls are in the Oversoul and are all one, then why is there any difference in the consciousness in the planes, in the experiences, and in the states? The cause of this difference is that the souls have different and diverse experiences. Diverse impressions, sanskaras. And sanskaras is handled deep in length, at length in discourses, and the references there below. Most souls have gross impressions. Some souls have subtle impressions. A few souls have mental impressions, and a very few souls have no impressions at all. Souls having gross impressions, souls having subtle impressions, souls having mental impressions, and souls having no impressions are all souls in the oversoul, O and S capital, and all are one, O capital. Souls with gross impressions have consciousness of the gross body, sthul sharir, and have experience of the gross sphere. Souls with subtle impressions have consciousness of the subtle body and have experience of the subtle sphere. Souls with mental impressions have consciousness of the mental body, mana or mind, and have the experience of the mental sphere. And then there is a table which basically has the spheres, gross, subtle, and mental. And then you have the bodies and their names in different traditions, mystical, Sufi, and Vedantic. So gross, subtle, and mental in mystical. In the Sufi is Jism-e-Kasif, Jism-e-Latif, and Jism-e-Altaf. And in the Vedantic, Sthula, Shukshma, and Karna Sharira, respectively. Oh, continue. Souls with no impressions have consciousness of self, soul, or Atma, and have the experience of the oversoul. So in this case, both the biggest self and the oversoul are with capital O and capital S respectively. The souls with gross impressions experience the gross sphere through the gross body. That is, they experience different and diverse experiences such as seeing, hearing, smelling, eating, sleeping, clearing the bowels, and urinating. All these are experiences of the gross sphere. Souls with subtle impressions experience successively three planes of the subtle sphere through the subtle body, and in these three planes, they have only the experiences of seeing, smelling, and hearing. Souls with mental impressions through the mental body or mind in the mental sphere experience only seeing, and this seeing is the seeing of God. Those having no impressions through the self experience in the infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss of the Oversoul. And that's where we stopped. And if you remember, we also discussed at length uh, some of the questions some of us had on the states and experiences. Then we discussed how does this actually work in the sense, how does someone eat and live in I mean, experience and perform the actions of one sphere and one using one body when he is actually in a higher sphere and a higher body. Uh, so with that, we can start afresh. Any thoughts or questions? I'll pause for a bit. Okay, so let's start. Let's continue from where we left off. The soul that is conscious of the gross body is not conscious of the subtle body, not conscious of the mental body, and not conscious of the biggest self. The soul that is conscious of the subtle body is not conscious of the gross body, not conscious of the mental body, and not conscious of self. The soul that is conscious of the mental body is not conscious of the gross body, not conscious of the subtle body, and not conscious of self. Then the soul that is conscious of biggest self is not conscious of the gross body, not conscious of the subtle body, and not conscious of the mental body. So this is the consciousness of the soul. So it's when you're at the gross body, you will not be able to be conscious of subtle, mental, and biggest self, and so on and so forth for each of the um, experiences, consciousness. Then the soul that has experience of the gross world does not have experience of the subtle world, nor experience of the mental world, nor does it have experience of the oversoul. The soul that has experience of the subtle world does not experience the gross world, nor does it have experience of the mental world, nor does it have experience of the oversoul. The soul that has experience of the mental world does not experience the gross world, nor does it experience the subtle world, nor does it have experience of the capital O, oversoul. The soul that has experience of the oversoul, capital O, does not experience the gross world, does not, nor does it experience the subtle world, nor does it experience the mental world. That is, the soul that is conscious of self, big S, and has experience of the oversoul, big O, is not conscious of the gross body, subtle body, and mental body and does not experience the gross, subtle, and mental spheres, worlds. It's a repetitive series of statements, but I think it is, I hope it is clear. I think it's simple. This means that in order to have consciousness of biggest self and to have the experience of the big O over soul, the soul must lose consciousness of the gross, subtle, and mental bodies. But as long as the soul is impressioned, either by the gross, subtle, or mental impressions, the soul consistently and respectively has consciousness of the gross body, subtle body, or mental body, and the gross, subtle, and mental experiences are persistently and necessarily undergone. The obvious reason for this is that as long as the consciousness of the soul is impressed by gross impressions, there is no way out except to experience these gross impressions through the gross body. Similarly, as long as the consciousness of the soul is impressed by subtle impressions, there is no way out but to experience these subtle impressions through the subtle body. Similarly, as long as the consciousness of the soul is impressed by mental impressions, there is no escape but to experience these mental impressions through the mental body. As impressions of the gross, subtle, and mental vanish or completely disappear, the consciousness of the soul is automatically and obviously directed and focused towards itself. And this soul then necessarily has no alternative but to absorb experience of the big O oversoul. So it's a subtle but important statement here. As impressions of the gross, subtle, and mental vanish or completely disappear, the consciousness of the soul is automatically and obviously directed and focused towards itself. And this soul then necessarily has no alternative but to absorb experience of the oversoul. So this is the process of going inward. This is covered at length in God Speaks. We'll get to it. But basically, the process starts loosening. I mean, as the grip of sanskaras loosen from each of the bodies and the worlds, gross, subtle, and mental, which means you start experiencing the next level. And as you loosen those impressions, you're also in the process looking inward, which is very important. Looking inward towards inward is nothing but uh, God, Baba, is our innermost loving self, right? So let's continue. Now, gross, subtle, and yeah, Mamadi.
One point which has made me clear today in reading this is that at each level we lose the previous level, then progress ahead. So earlier I used to have an impression that as you go higher up, you give little importance to the lower levels, and then you say live in the new level. But it's so very clear that we don't carry anything from the lower levels. So that's clarity. I got it. Hey, Baba.
Yeah, very important, very important. So the as you leave from gross to subtle, you're actually shedding. You're you're
Heading.
you're you're shedding rather than you're promoting.
Yes.
In if you think you're promoting from one to the other, you may have all the other consciousness and experiences, but in this it is I mean Baba says it is you move from one to the other.
And
But
with this,
again, let's yeah, go ahead.
with this background, we can imagine the must at different levels. So even though they have a gross body and all that, their level of consciousness will be somewhere else, and they will never have the experience of the gross world or the gross body, things like that. So it's a very unique experience of the mass. Jai Baba.
Yeah, but again, going back to last week's discussion and the 2 pages that we read now, though you're you're shedding and going to the next level, you're going to be eating, you're going to need the gross body's functions, or at least uh, to the rest of the world, you'll be performing those functions as normally. But your consciousness has moved ahead
Yes, yes,
from the soul's perspective. From the
yes.
soul's perspective, the consciousness of the soul has moved ahead, and it's almost mechanical and disconnected operations of another plane, another form, another body, not form, body,
Yeah,
another
body.
level.
Jai Baba,
Yes, Namita ji.
as we move on, would we know?
No.
Huh?
Yeah. Good question. Very good question. Uh, would we know? Would we know that yes, I'm now moving from the gross to the subtle?
Yeah, like what are the, one level, two level? How do we know we've crossed over to the next side?
Yeah, I know where the question is coming from, but any other thing? See, I know. So I don't know. Actually, I don't know whether we will know it. So that will give you more hope, Nomita, from your perspective. But Kama, what do you think? How does one know? Are you there?
Don't think is.
Oh,
Yeah, Jay Baba, how does one know? You will intuitively know, just like you know you have Baba's blessing, you have Baba's grace. Similarly, you will know when you're on the path what is going on intuitively.
Oh.
so if
Or maybe
that's
when you're feeling the happiness, right? When you're feeling the happiness without knowing the reason, when you're feeling that much of happiness, that may be the one way you're knowing, okay, I am on the correct path. At least I am on the correct path. When you're feeling that much of happiness, I think.
happiness is a very low word, so it's a risky
Bliss.
statement,
I
Ashish.
think bliss, maybe.
Yeah, but bliss is only in the seventh. So that's why I wanted to comment to respond to Ashish. When you get the experience of bliss, of course, you're home and dry. You're like in the last level. And yes, that is a experience that you have not had before. And happiness is a very, very low aspect. Happiness is at the hour play. I'm happy to see someone you love. I'm happy to see a success. I'm happy to see what
No, no,
I
no. I'm
aspired
saying
for.
I'm saying
More than that.
without
I
any
mean, bliss
reasons.
is like next
Without
level.
any reasons. Absolutely. But what I'm saying
Without
without
any
any reasons.
reason. Without any
Without
reason.
any reasons, but you are feeling like very blessed or very happy without any reasons, whatever happened in your life. So
Hmm.
might be that time we might feel, okay, I am on the correct path at least. I'm not saying I am on some certain stage, we are on certain stage, but without reason, if you're feeling very happy, blessed, and every time, whatever the happening in your life, maybe that time you're on the path.
But just see this statement that Ashish is saying in isolation. And in isolation, I agree with him, not in the context what we are discussing. The moments where you have unconditional love and unconditional happiness, that's what he's saying, are, are points where we are actually connected to the divine. And I agree with him totally. Because there, your impressions take a backseat and you're actually doing what your soul is supposed to do. But that is unconscious. That unconscious, as in you're not doing it with awareness, but you're feeling something that is truly connected to the divine. And I know we have all got these moments in our life. But what we are discussing, Ashish, and that's why I said it's I want to distinguish now, is what we are discussing is back to Nomita ji's question. Nomita ji's question is, how do I know that since the last 30 years of our life or 20 years of our life, or if at all in this lifetime, I've made any progress at all? And to which Kama's point is that it will happen. It's just a process, and you'll get to know. I don't know. I don't know how it works. So, uh, has Baba covered it anywhere? Uh, Kama, from your memory. Okay, I think he's not near the phone. I don't know. Okay, so I hope that helps, Nomita. But so if you
Yeah, Baba.
don't know, no, if you don't know, it could mean you just didn't realize it.
Yes. Or, uh,
Okay,
yeah,
that was about.
we know, being in bliss at a stage is okay. But do we know at what stage that, what is the level of that bliss? Are we, which plane are we? I think maybe that's not for us to know.
Again, in a very lighter way, if you're asking this question, you're not there yet.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So it's difficult to, but there is some clue in the Parvardigar prayer. So,
Hmm?
I mean, this infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite bliss. So,
Correct.
so I think the intersection of all three is where you would know that you have reached.
No, it's very technical, Ashok ji. So intersection सबको नहीं मिलता है, and you'll see
Intersection,
that in the
but at least
supplements.
if you have infinite power, infinite bliss,
No, it's not an intersection. It's a summation. You
summation,
get
okay.
all three. You get all three. If you get only bliss, I mean, it's very, very technical, right? So we have to be careful with the use of our words. It's not an intersection. It's a summation of all three that you have access to if you make it to that. If you get mukti, you remember Baba in the last breath. You get mukti. You get bliss, and that's it. It's not in body, but you'll not come back to another birth. But you don't experience power, you don't experience knowledge, right? So it's very, very technical. So I want to respond to tell that much so that we are all up on the same page. Okay,
Yeah.
let's
Jai
continue.
Baba, Karthik, what
Yeah,
was your
come on.
question? Sorry. What was your
Um,
question? I couldn't. Yeah.
I even
You
forget
were
what my question was. Yeah, I think it was.
Nomita.
Has Baba covered this question anywhere? In the sense, from your memory, has Baba talked about the soul realizing its position in the journey by itself or discovering by itself? Are there any signs that the soul, the consciousness of the soul, has access to in the cosmic theme in its journey?
well. Um, Let me understand the question. Your question is
It's an
whether the
extension of
soul,
Nomita's question. It's an extension of
right?
Nomita's question. It's basically, has Baba specifically covered it elsewhere where he's talked about this?
Meaning, meaning souls, whether the soul consciousness is able to consciously know which plane it is on and what it is experiencing.
Yes,
Correct.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
yes.
Okay. So we know that in this particular reading, it says in the first three planes, you will hear subtle sounds, sound, smell, sight, SSS, sound, smell, sight in the three planes, subtle planes. And whereas in the mental plane, it's only sight, which we know fifth plane and sixth plane is domain of mind with thoughts and domain of mind with feelings, where you see God in the fifth plane alternatively. But in sixth plane, you're seeing God all the time. So Yes. It's the analogy I can use is that in our normal 24-hour states, waking dream state, sleeping dream state, and the sound sleep state, when you had sound sleep state and you experience unconscious bliss, and then when you wake up from that sound sleep state for about 60 seconds, when you're fully getting awakened, because you don't get fully awakened from bliss sound sleep state, it gradually happens, it takes some time, and that's when you realize that you're going through this divine absolute vacuum state which we are not able to explain. There is no mind, and then once you are fully awake, the sanskaras take over, and then but you have experienced the bliss state, because you feel very good. Similarly, when you are waking up from your sleeping dream state, during the dream, it is as real as the waking state. But after you wake up from the sleeping dream state, then you know that, yes, I had actually experienced the dream. So I think if you take that as an analogy, as Baba said, there are two ways of going through it. One is you go through each plane and experience all the sights, sounds, all the different, because they are all different forms of illusion or of higher degree. So, yes, you will be able to experience those things, but maybe you need a perfect master to tell you what plane you are in. I don't know whether you're in the first plane or second plane or third plane. Can we consciously know about it? That I am not sure about. But definitely, one is very clear that the easiest path is to go veiled. Even if you're in these planes, you will have siddhis and stuff like that. You're not bothered which plane I'm in, because the only goal that you have is that you want to be united with God. You want to attain nirvana or nirvikalpa samadhi. So I feel that the final thing I can say is, in beams, you have also read it, and you know that when you're in the seventh plane, you will have equanimity and are all circumstances and adequate adjustment with everything in the phenomenal world. I think that is the best summation you can give in terms of what happens to somebody, if especially when you're reached that highest state. Jai Baba.
I think you nailed it, and I think to answer and specifically point out in your response the fact that you get some certain experiences in certain planes, like the subtle music and subtle smells, right, is a sure sign, and that's a Baba reference. Baba has said it, right? But remember, you could also be hallucinating, right? Not just
Yes,
under the
yes, yes,
influence of a
exactly. Yes,
substance. Yeah, not just under the
yes.
influence of a substance, but even without an influence of a substance, you may actually be hallucinating about a subtle sound or a subtle a smell, and it may not be real. So that's the word of warning. But those are specifications that are clear signs, that are milestones on the path that tell you are there to respond to Nomita's question. Thank you, Kama.
Thank you very
And
much. Appreciate
the
all.
point which Kama made on the sound sleep to waking up, and the dream state to waking up is beautifully covered in part two in very great detail. So Baba covers it very in detail. We'll read about it. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue. Jai Baba. Now, gross,
I had
subtle.
a thought. Sorry
Sure,
to
Sunil,
interrupt.
please.
Sorry for
Sure, sure,
interrupting.
sure, sure.
Yesterday, it crossed my mind yesterday, and I think it's a little bit relevant. It may be kind of a dumb thought as well, but we live this life through this body, through this soul, and through the moments that we live. We don't know आगे क्या हो रहा है. When someday we'll be on second plane, fourth plane, seventh plane. किसी ने देखा नहीं है. It's all theory, right? Whether we will experience it or not. Is it possible that we are living through these planes as we are living? In a day, you could be, like Kama used to say, When you sleep, it's like Pratma Parabram state. Nothing exists. And when you're praying, if you're in complete equanimity with God, you're on the seventh plane. You're not remembering anything unless you're distracted. That's maybe then you are on first plane. When you're doing something bad, you could be dropping from fourth plane to the, not to the
So,
stone
yeah.
age. So aren't all these experiences that we have through the day kind of
Very good.
dropping the planes?
Very good
Dear Baba,
question. Very
I
good
think
thought. Yeah, go ahead, Dekama.
I think it's a very, very valid question. I have thought about it, and Sunil is right. I think all of us, consciously or unconsciously, do experience these different things, whether it's subtle sounds, subtle smells, subtle sight, or even the mental sight of God or something. Like, for example, Baba comes to you in your dream, or some people see the apparition of Baba, when they go to the Samadhi. So, yes, we all do experience consciously, unconsciously, these different states in different planes. At different times, depending on how our soul consciousness is at that time. Like as he said, when you're praying, you could be having visions, like you could be completely united with God at that moment, but it's temporary, basically. So yes, the answer is correct. The answer is yes. And the second thing I also wanted to point out was that the for the previous question, two things. For example, if you have LSD, you can actually experience the subtle part. Okay, I mean, I should not be saying this, but it's the fact, like
Exactly what I
because
wanted to say.
I've
Don't do it,
experienced
say it.
it. But I've experienced it, that you could actually see yourself united with, like, I could see myself in the leaf. Everything becomes so psychedelic, the color. And that is why, like Baba said, that it's okay. I mean, he didn't say it's okay to have drugs. He said they are temporary things. They definitely give you that thing, whether it's ayahuasca that I did in, in Bolivia and, Peru or whatever, like, in Mexico. It gives you that temporary connection, but the whole idea is, can we experience this thing naturally, by with our natural body, without taking any substances, without taking any kind of drugs, alcohol, even alcohol, all these things that we do in our normal world, like even food, gluttony, food is a form of lust. So I think, and also to answer your question about getting deluded, spiritual delusion, one of the reasons why we have all these scandals in the spiritual world is because some of these people who are in different planes presume that they have become God realized, and they start leading other people, misleading people, and making them think that, I am self realized, you have to follow me, and blah, blah, blah. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Only thing, again, technically, it's a temporary. Second, it's unconscious. So, Paraspar Parabram is a fact. Baba has referred to it every night. Every night you're in that state, but it's unconscious. And the fact that you wake up makes it temporary.
Temporary.
So the key words are temporary and unconscious. And yes, we go through all of it.
Jai
Okay.
Baba.
Might become
Yeah.
it might become permanent also, right? Means we in the Wayfarer, I think we're reading some people become the must in between of their life. They remain good until suppose the age of 14. Then some people become the must.
Correct.
So that might be one of the step that person change his plane in one of the time, might be at one certain stage.
Again, technically, it's not must is it's not permanent. It's a continuing state because with Baba's grace, you may flip over and go cross the seventh plane also. So it's not permanent. Unfortunately, it's continuing for a long time for them, and that's the struggle. But yes, you're right, and it depends on each person's soul. I mean, each person's personal journey. But to respond to Sunil's question, yes, we go through all of these right through the day, and in that same way, a must goes through it, flips to a particular state, and stays there for longer. But it's not permanent.
Yeah,
Hopefully
Jay
not
Baba,
purpose. Yeah, come on.
to add to what you said about musts, basically the technical reason is the musts are stuck in that plane. They are so overwhelmed by the experience. Like Baba said, like you are on a train going to a destination and you get off at a station and you get very mesmerized by the sights and you miss the train. You kind of stay in that particular plane. So musts are basically because they don't have the guidance of a perfect master. They have, like Baba said, like up to the sixth plane, you can actually go like Aurobindo did. You can actually go by
Yeah.
the book and go up to the sixth plane by yourself. But the reason for having a guru or perfect master is that he helps you not to get stuck, and he also helps you to go veiled. That is the beauty. So that is why it's better to have the guidance of the avatar or the perfect master rather than doing it by yourself, because you can get stuck in a particular plane and become a must, and you have to wait for the avatar to come and get you out, Jai Baba.
Yeah, perfect. So I think I was trying to get that. Never mind. I think 2 times we referred something in Beams. Maybe we'll just quickly see it. So, so if you see, yeah, one sec. Can you see page 28, the second part? So here, God realization. This is what Kama said in both his interventions, right? So God realization implies inner poise, equanimity, as well as adequate adjustment with the universe, right? Now, adequate adjustment with the universe is creative consciousness, which is the world around us. But which is the okay? I'll first read it and then we can explain. God realization implies inner poise as well as adequate adjustment with the universe, which is the shadow of God. The universe is not real, but it's a shadow of God, along with everything it contains. The first master, who is also the first incarnation of the avatar, the first master, who is also the first incarnation of the avatar. What's going on? 1 second, I think. Reading again, the first master, who is also the first incarnation of the avatar, attained both these things because it is the very goal of the initial urge seeking fulfillment. He did not have a master in the human form. Now, this is important. With regard to those souls who attain God realization subsequently, the two requirements stand. Same two requirements: inner poise and adequate adjustment with everything in the universe. Now, there is a difference. For example, for the soul who is second in attaining God realization, one of the important factors in his spiritual environment is the existence of a human God realized master, soul. Hence, while adjusting himself with everything in the universe, the second candidate for God realization is confronted with the problem of adjusting himself to the first master or God realized soul, who, as we have seen, is indistinguishable from the eternal avatar. In this case, the only adequate adjustment possible is unreserved acceptance of the bountiful help which comes from the first master. Refusal to accept this help is maladjustment to a tremendous factor in the universe, and this prevents God realization. So, just to go back to Kama's second intervention, where he talked about Aurobindo. So, Aurobindo went up to sixth plane, and he did not do adjustment to this aspect, the second aspect of the perfect master. But the perfect master, in his infinite compassion, stepped in and pushed him across the board. I hope this helps understand and get clarity on the role of the master. It might be a little bit of
I
a tangent, but it was worth it.
couldn't understand the Aurobindo example. How did we know that he didn't make adjustment?
Baba said.
Oh,
So
Baba.
Baba said, yeah. Baba has said he did his progress without a master.
Okay.
So he's yeah. So if you look at the beams that we read now,
Mhm.
everybody needs to now let's talk about ourselves. So
Right.
once we are in the path, we need to adjust with Baba. Now, adjust is a very broad term. So, what we are saying is get aligned and recognize the true nature of the world and adjust with that and put Baba in the place he deserves to be, right?
Okay.
So, and then you're sorted. Then this
Mhm.
soul is sorted and is in right relationship in with the creative universe. Then you can make progress. Now,
Okay.
if you don't, then you're not even going to make progress.
Right.
So, two conditions: equanimity and adjustment with everything around you, including the perfect master.
Mhm. Right.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, in the case of Aurobindo, he did it. I mean, maybe he was an advanced soul. His sanskaras helped him make the progress without the perfect master. And in the last step, Baba pushed him across.
All right. Great.
Right,
I got.
Kama?
Jai Baba,
Yeah.
everybody, Karthik. I just wanted to say that this stages, the cycle of sleep and waking, which is mentioned in Listen Humanity, chapter 2, also gives us indication of when you're on the path. Just to address the initial question which Novitaji asked. So you get signs if you're on the path, and when you are in sound sleep, uh, you are in the beyond state of God, although you're not conscious of it. But there are some there's a lot of content in chapter 2 of Listen Humanity.
Yes, we went through it as well, right?
Yes, yes,
So,
but
part
I
two,
just
let's chapter two.
yeah, I said it's relevant to
Yeah,
the.
yeah, correct, correct, correct. Well deserved cross reference. Well deserved cross reference. The other thing is, on a serious note, not on a lighter note. Norm, if you make progress, and given that you are the one that's most able in communication and putting the word out, you have to put the word out and also document it. So it's like the first explorer goes through a road, discovers the road, and then he puts milestones. So in the same way, I would urge you to make sure you write about it. Okay. So as you make progress and you discover it.
Jai Baba. We'll all discover each other on the seventh plane and then say, Are tu bhi?
Insha Baba. Okay, let's continue. Now, gross, subtle, and mental bodies are nothing but the shadows of the soul. The gross, subtle, and mental spheres, worlds, are nothing but the shadows of the oversoul. This is a important part, and I think you'll get to understand. If you are not able to get this now, don't worry. We'll cover it when we get to chart one. But it's a very profound concept of the macrocosm, microcosm, and at the fact that uh, it's the concept of the nothing, the small nothing and the big nothing and everything, right? So we'll get just if this is complex on the concept of the shadow, just leave it right now. We'll get to it in later parts around chart one. Uh, Continuing, gross, subtle, and mental bodies are finite, have forms, and are changeable and destructible. The gross, subtle, and mental worlds are false. They are zero, imagination, and vacant dreams. The only reality is the oversoul, Paramatma. Therefore, when the soul, with its gross, subtle, and mental bodies, experiences the gross, subtle, and mental worlds, the soul actually experiences in reality and shadows of the oversoul with the help of its own shadows. I'll read it again. Therefore, when the soul, with its gross, subtle, and mental bodies, experiences the gross, subtle, and mental worlds, the soul actually experiences in reality the shadows of the oversoul with the help of its own shadows. So, broadly speaking, uh, this is covered in detail in 2, 3 places. Creation and its causes, infinite intelligence, and of course, in God Speaks later on. The form, the form that we are in is actually the form of the. So in the Bible, it says, "I God created man in His likeness." Right. So even in an ant, in a tree, in a stone, Baba says there is a likeness of man. So we have covered that as well in one of the earlier discussions during infinite intelligence and or creation and its causes. Yeah, it's in creation. So we have not read it, but I attended a session and then there is a diagram as well Baba has drawn of how all of these forms also correspond to the form of the human, which is in likeness of God, right? Again, very technical. God does not have a form. Okay. So when I'm saying this, it's don't assume that there is God with a form like a human. Okay, let's continue. Therefore, when the soul with its gross, subtle, and mental bodies repeating, so like it's okay. Therefore, when the soul with its gross, subtle, and mental bodies experiences the gross, subtle, and mental worlds, the soul actually experiences in reality the shadows of the oversoul, O capital, with the help of its own shadows. In other words, the soul with its finite and destructible form experiences falsity, zero imagination, and a vacant dream. So I'll tell you what I'm talking about so that you will remember when we get to it. Yeah, this is the one, right? So God is reality and all else is illusion. And so there are shadows, and then you go. This is explained in detail, but this is the chart where I'm saying we'll crack this right now. If you don't get it, it's okay. The small shadow, big shadow, everything, nothing. Don't worry about this. We'll crack it when we get to chart 7. Let's continue. Only when the soul experiences the big oversoul with its biggest self does it experience the big R real with reality. When the soul is conscious of its gross body, then this soul identifies itself with the gross body and takes itself as the gross body. This means that the infinite, eternal, formless soul finds itself as finite, mortal, and having form. Impressions, sanskaras, are the cause of this ignorance. In the beginning, the soul, which is eternally in the capital O oversoul, at first acquires ignorance through impressions rather than acquiring knowledge, and knowledge with a big K. And the ignorance is also through impressions, and false identification makes you look at the impressions and building more impressions than focusing on knowledge. Yeah. Let's continue. When the soul acquires a particular form, body or shari, according to a particular impressions, it feels and experiences itself as being that particular form. Just what I was saying, identification. So you become identified with the form. Soul, in its stone form, experiences itself as stone. Accordingly, in due course, the soul experiences and feels that it is metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal, man, or woman. Whatever be the type of gross form and whatever be the shape of the form, the soul spontaneously associates itself with that form, figure, and shape, and experiences that it is itself that form, figure, and shape. When the soul is conscious of the subtle body, then the soul experiences that it is the subtle body. When the soul becomes conscious of the mental body, then the soul experiences that it is the mental body. It is only because of impressions, naksh-e-amal or sanskaras, that the soul without form, the infinite soul, I and S capital, experiences that it is veritably a gross body, sthul shari, or a subtle body, prana, or a mental body, mana or mind. This is an important line.
And where is this terminology coming from? Nakshe Amal. Is it from Urdu? It's like, is it mentioned
Sufi.
somewhere like
Sufi. It's a Sufi term.
Sufi term? Okay.
Sufi term, yeah. So that's what I was also making a mental note. So sanskara's equivalent term in Sufi is naksh-e-amal. Okay, let's continue. The soul, while experiencing the gross world through gross forms, associates with and disassociates from innumerable gross forms. The association with and disassociation from gross forms are termed birth and death, respectively. It is only because of impressions that the eternal, immortal soul, existing in reality without births and without deaths, has to experience births and deaths innumerable times. So there's a
Karthik, you can
yeah,
read that paragraph once again,
okay. The previous one or this one?
previous.
Yes, sure. That's what I thought. The soul, while experiencing the gross world through gross forms, associates with and disassociates from innumerable gross forms. The association with and disassociation from gross forms are termed birth and death, respectively.
Yes. It's,
And cross reference, real birth, real death. Ashok's favorite chapter. Listen, humanity. Right? Second cross reference. This is the 8.4 million Yoni Chakra.
yes.
So you go through the 84 lakh births and deaths. Yeah.
Karthik, if I may also add that the real birth, the real death, which is in supplement 19 of God Speaks.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Correct. Thank you. Okay. So let's continue. It is only because of impressions that the eternal, immortal soul, existing in reality without births and without deaths, has to experience births and deaths innumerable times. So there is a semantic confusion here. So, firstly, there is no birth and death for the soul, but it experiences births and deaths. But then you have to understand that the second time births and deaths are mentioned, it is the unreal births and deaths, not the real births and deaths. So, sorry. Sorry. While the soul
Jai
has to,
Baba, see, there is only one real birth and one real death, which is the birth of the soul during the Big Bang or the whim,
whim,
where it starts with the most fundamental consciousness, and the real death is the annihilation of the mind. So that's Manonash. So in between the real birth and real death, there are innumerable births and deaths, which in a technical form has been given as the dissociation and association of forms. You know, so there is nothing like birth and death. All these, according to the conventional human terminology, that somebody is dead. Actually, it's not. We know that it's only the gross body that is dropped, and then it takes up another gross body in the male or female form. And the second thing is the 8.4 million, 84 lakh human cycles. Because in Supplement of God Speaks, Baba talks about 50,000 crore
Yes,
species
yes,
that
yes,
we go
yes,
through, you know.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So just for, yeah. Okay, Baba.
Right.
Again,
Sorry, I
thank
have
you
a
for
question.
pointing it out.
Yeah.
I said Yoni Chakkar. Yoni is across species, but thanks for that clarity. Yes,
Jai
Namita.
Baba. Does that mean the increase in population is because these stones, leaves, all these guys are graduating into human beings?
Yes,
That's
yes.
why we have many people?
Yes, it looks like you are
Very good
logically
question.
correct.
Very good question. And yes, I agree with both of you, all of us. I mean, there is a bigger number, bigger push, or
I think
it's the passage
global,
of unreal time.
the global warming is also because trees are dying and becoming human beings. Jai Baba.
No, Jay Baba, from my understanding, is that Baba talks about three different kinds of earth. One is our earth, 50% heart, 50% mind. Second one, 75% mind, 25% heart. And third one, 100% mind. Beyond that, there are 7,000 or something different types of earth, Earth like planets. So what I've understood is that because this is the avataric cycle where Baba is present in his Nirguna Nirakar form, many of the souls in other planets would like to make use of this particular time period and take that energy. And that is why we see, I try to understand why do we have so much poverty? Yes, there are so many souls that are being born. We have 300 million in 1947 India, then 700 million in 1970s. Today it's 1.6 billion. So where are these souls coming from? They are coming from other planets to actually, what do you call, leverage this time
Experience,
period
yeah.
till 2069. Absolutely, So this is my intuitive reasoning, about why we have so much of population, apart from the material aspects. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, how would they know there's a party downstairs?
The soul knows, but
because
we don't know.
because when you die so-called physical death, you go through the semi-subtle world and the semi-subtle astral world where you go through a analysis
Heaven
of
or
your
hell
past
state.
birth, the business plan, what you actually like. For example, all of us have come with a pre-birth, preordained, pre-scripted birth plan, who we are born with, what kind of big picture, what kind of jobs, children, and so on and so forth. Those things are already pre programmed before we took birth. The question was how we go about it is the free will or power of choice. So these things are already, like they say in different books, that people who have come from near death experience talk about those higher spirits and angels who help you to design your next birth on earth. So it's a large literature on that actually. Jai Baba.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, let's continue. While the soul has to undergo this experience of innumerable births and deaths because of impressions, it has not only to experience the gross world, which is a shadow of the oversoul and which is false, but together with it, the soul has also to experience the happiness and misery, virtue and vice of the gross world. I'll read this para again. While the soul has to undergo this experience of innumerable births and deaths because of impressions, it has not only to experience the gross world, which is a shadow of the oversoul, big O, and which is false, but together with it, the soul has also to experience the happiness and misery, virtue and vice of the gross world. It is only because of impressions that the soul, which is beyond and free from happiness and misery, virtue and vice, has necessarily to undergo experiences of misery and happiness, vice and virtue. Now, this much is established, that the experiences of births and deaths, happiness and misery, virtue and vice are experienced only by the gross form of the soul while experiencing the gross world. But the gross form of the soul is a shadow of the soul, and the gross world is a shadow of the oversoul. Thus, all the experiences of births and deaths, virtue and vice, happiness and misery experienced by the soul are nothing but experiences of the shadow. Hence, all that is experienced is false. Atma, in reality, is Paramatma. In order to clarify the relationship of Atma and Paramatma, we compare Paramatma with an infinite ocean, a limitless ocean, and the Atma as a drop in that ocean. The Atma is never out of this limitless ocean, Paramatma. The Atma can never be out of Paramatma because Paramatma is infinite and unlimited. How can the Atma come out of or have a place beyond the limitlessness of the limitless? Therefore, the Atma is in Paramatma. After establishing the primary fact that the Atma is in Paramatma, we go a step further and say that Atma is Paramatma. How? For example, let us imagine an unlimited ocean. Let us also imagine that we separate or take out one iota of ocean from the limitless expanse of this unlimited ocean. It follows then that this iota of ocean, while in the limitless ocean, before separation, is ocean itself, and is not there in the shoreless ocean as an iota of the ocean, because every iota of ocean, when not limited by the limitations of a drop, is unlimited ocean. Pause, but just let that sink in.
Yes, you can read once again to sink it.
Okay. Let me do that. For example, let us imagine an unlimited ocean. Let us also imagine that we separate or take out one iota of ocean from the limitless expanse of this unlimited ocean. It follows then that this iota of ocean, while in the limitless ocean, before separation is ocean itself, and is not there in the shoreless ocean as an iota of the ocean, because every iota of ocean, when not limited by the limitations of a drop, is unlimited ocean. It may
The
be
last part did
confusing
not sink.
because
The last
which
part did not sink. Okay.
okay, so it's when the till the drop does not recognize and identify with the bubble or with the drop as being independent, it it was part of unlimited ocean.
Ocean.
So
Ocean.
it follows then, I'll read the last part again. It follows then that this iota of ocean, which one? The one now that feels it separate, while in the limitless ocean, that is before, it was in the limitless ocean, before separation is ocean itself and is not there in the shoreless ocean as an iota of the ocean. So it was not created where this drop was one by one, the drops were created. No, they were all in the ocean and they were the ocean itself. Because every iota of ocean, when not limited by the limitations of a drop, is unlimited ocean. Now, when you say when not limited by limitations of a drop, when the limitations of the drop is nothing but impressions, false identification created by impressions.
Yes.
So you see yourself as being the drop when you're actually the ocean.
Yes.
You always were the ocean. Again, that sink in. It's a beautiful analogy, and Baba uses it multiple places. And just this thought can keep us busy for the week, thinking in multiple ways of what Baba is trying to communicate here. the ocean, and the drop.
Jay Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, as you read ahead, and in other literature of Baba, you notice that this drop, the drop soul, which I call is the raindrop. We are all like raindrops from the ocean. It once it falls onto earth in different parts of the earth, whether it's mud or whether it's water, you collect debris, which is basically the sanskaras. So the bubble around the drop soul, is the sanskaric impression, which starts off with the whim, the first whim or impression, which is who am I? And that first impression needs to be experienced. So the soul consciousness has to take a form. So what we are seeing out here is that the drop by itself is the soul, which nothing happens to us. Only when the bubble is the sanskaric impression. That what creates the maya, the delusion that I am separate from the ocean. So that is why it is always said that whether you are in the mineral kingdom or any of the kingdoms, up till the human kingdom, nothing happens to the soul. It is only the consciousness of the soul. This is what we don't have to bother about the soul. The soul is like the white movie screen in a movie theater. It doesn't matter where the white movie screen is, the movies keep changing. So the analogy out here is every time, as I said earlier, that consciousness of the soul is going through these different experiences, basically. Jai Baba.
Any other questions from the others?
Kama, with your explanation, what is the actual difference between the changes happening earlier and the changes which is happening in the human lifetime or human cycle as such?
Can you rephrase the question again, please?
No, you said that this is the progress of the consciousness without much change in the, say, other awareness or anything in the forms before the human form. And then what is the difference that we achieve in the human form?
Okay, good question. If I understood it right, what is the difference? So there are three kinds of sanskaras we know. One is three types. One is called winding sanskaras, one is called spending sanskaras, and one is called unwinding sanskaras.
Yes.
So when you read the literature of God Speaks, you will understand that from the time of the whim till the first human form, we are only winding sanskaras. We are programmed to behave whatever the form is programmed to experience. Like the cat will behave with cat consciousness, the dog will behave like a dog consciousness. It's programmed. So consciousness has to evolve. That is why it needs to take higher and higher forms, because the higher and higher forms allows us to evolve consciousness, where consciousness becomes full and complete in the human form. That is the difference. So all these different kingdoms, the consciousness are of different degrees, whereas in the human form, all the human beings on planet Earth, the 8 billion people, are me, God realized and God awakened, but not behaving like God. You don't need to, it's not rocket science to know that, oh, I don't have to cheat, I don't have to tell a lie, I don't have to do this or that, the 10 commandments, okay, for simplicity. So basically, the consciousness of the soul, when it reaches the human form, human consciousness, it is covered by a layer of sanskaras, which we have gathered from the animal kingdom to what we call as the winding of samskaras, all the different kingdoms. Now, in the human form, in the reincarnation stage, where we are in the gross body or in the gross sphere of existence, the phenomenal sphere of existence, we are now spending those samskaras. We are now experiencing all the lust, greed, and anger which we experienced in the animal kingdom is now experienced in the human form with full consciousness, because the animal doesn't have full consciousness. So technically, the full and complete consciousness in human form is Maha Chaitanya, super consciousness. All human beings have Maha Chaitanya, but unfortunately, it is covered by these layer of sanskaras, which we are now spending in the gross sphere. And once we enter the first plane of involution, it is called unwinding sanskaras. And you go through first plane, second plane, and so on. And then in the sixth plane, with the grace of the master, he removes the natural sanskaras, because actually we are working on something called inorganic sanskaras or human sanskaras. But only the perfect master can remove the animal or natural sanskaras in the sixth plane, like the last, whatever, because we don't even know about it. But so the point here is that the difference is that consciousness become full and complete in the human form, whereas it is not during the evolution through the kingdoms, and there is no more evolution once you reach the human form. Those are the
Yes.
differences.
Thank you. Thank you for forgotten portion of God speaks brought to light.
Yes. 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 Okay. Any other questions? Let's continue. It is only when an iota of ocean is separated from the unlimited ocean or is taken out of the unlimited ocean as a drop that this iota of ocean obtains its separate existence as a drop of the shoreless ocean, and that this iota of ocean begins to be looked upon as a drop of the unlimited ocean. In other words, the infinite, unlimited, and limitless ocean itself is now looked upon as merely a drop of that infinite, unlimited, and limitless ocean. And in comparison to that infinite, unlimited, and limitless ocean, this iota of ocean, or this drop of the iota of ocean, is most finite and most limited with infinite limitations. That is, the infinitely free iota finds itself infinitely bound. Similarly, the Atma, which we have compared with the drop of the infinite ocean, obtains a seeming separate existence. It's not real, but it's a seeming separate existence, though in reality, it can never be out of the limitlessness of the limitless, infinite Paramatma, which we have compared with the infinite, unlimited, and limitless ocean. But just as the iota of ocean acquires its limitation as a drop through being in the form of a bubble on the surface of the ocean, and the bubble bestows upon the iota of ocean an apparently separative existence from the infinite ocean. Likewise, the Atma, which is in Paramatma and is Paramatma, apparently experiences separative existence from the infinite Paramatma through the limitations of a bubble of ignorance, with which the Atma shrouds itself. No sooner does the bubble of ignorance burst than the Atma not only finds itself in Paramatma, but experiences itself as Paramatma. So you are not only in the ocean, but you are the ocean. So the drop, after it lets go of all the false identifications and exhausts its treasure trove of impressions, recognizes its true nature as, first, it recognizes that it is in the ocean. And the second, it recognizes itself as being the ocean itself. Through this limitation formed by the bubble of ignorance, self-created by the Atma apparently inherits a separative existence from Paramatma. And because of this self-created separativeness from infinite Paramatma, the Atma, which is itself infinite, unlimited, and limitless, apparently experiences itself as most finite with infinite limitations. Okay, that's the end of part one. I'll pause for a bit. Ocean and ocean analogy. Any question? Any thoughts?
The only thought is that, Jay Baba, is that we have to get rid of the limitations or the delusion which is created by the impressions. We have to get rid of that. Then we have everything which is clear. Is what I take away from this. Really.
Yep.
Yeah,
Don't forget perfect master. Don't forget equanimity. Don't forget yeah.
Always.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, Mamaji.
this reading of the first chapter is some sort of a revision of what all exercises that we have done till now in Baba's messages, Baba's literature, Baba in us, everything. So I think if somebody can talk on this first chapter, its perspectives, how it projects the whole tree of Baba, as Ashok used to connect with every other literature available from Baba source. With every line here, comma explains how it moves up and down through the whole, say, diagrams that we have studied. All these things are really very exhilarating, mind-blogging. So one particular chapter, that is the first chapter, uh, takes us through so much of areas. So I can imagine what will be the difficulty of a first-time reader of this chapter.
Yes.
Hey, Baba.
Very, very well said. Any volunteers for making that presentation? Please, you are welcome. One, but more importantly, Baba in this magnum opus of God Speaks, the most important book he has said is that he has written. The first part covers everything. So basically, he's
Yes,
finished it.
yes.
He has started the story and finished the story. He has said this is it, but obviously he gets into greater detail, and the next chapter is very, very interesting. It's one of the intriguing mysteries that the human mind first starts getting once you start asking questions. So the inquisitiveness eventually will take you to the question that part two answers, right? Every human being will go through that. So we will understand that. And nobody, I think, till Baba has answered this with the clarity as Baba has. So we'll explore that in the coming week.
Yeah, yeah. Jay Baba Mamaji, if you remember, I had made one diagram with a triangle. I don't know whether
Yes,
you remember.
yes.
And on the top is the oversoul. Uh, and I was just going through that diagram myself. But on the first page it says some souls have gross impressions, some lesser souls have subtle impressions, and some even lesser souls have mental impressions, and there are souls with no impressions. So I mean, it's a progression. So I think the number of souls which reach the oversoul, uh, I mean, there's no statistics, but that's what I could derive from this. It's a journey, and to reach God realization and get merged with the oversoul. So of course, there's a lot of lot of paradigms and principles, but that could be one way of understanding, which I have adopted to make it simple for me.
Yes, yes, yes.
And of course, we have that lag, which I call lust, anger, and greed. The sanskaras of the ego, which draws us down, and then there is no sanskaras when we reach the Jnan Bhumika, or the, the precondition for getting merged with the oversoul.
Very good, very good. Panduji, Jai Baba, we didn't hear anything from you. How are you?
Sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
Yeah, Jay
asking
Kama.
about
Baba.
my.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, Kama. Yeah, after you, Kama. Go ahead.
No, no. Was there a question or you just wanted me to answer something? Sorry, I didn't.
No, no,
Was
no.
there a
I don't
question?
think. No,
Oh,
I
where
don't
am
think
I?
it was a
Actually,
question.
I am actually in Rajgir. Rajgir is near Bodh Gaya, Gaya. And
Okay.
I looked at Lord Meher, and Baba was here in 1949 only in Gaya to meet a peer. Somebody who was on the sixth plane saint. Okay, just before he went on the new life in 1949 was a very hardcore time. Baba was visiting, doing a lot of stuff during that time. But Rajgir is a place where Buddha, Mahavir, there are these five mountains out here called the Rajgir Hills and all that. And yesterday, I went to one of the mountains and there were like five different. It's a long story. I'll send the link. But what I wanted to tell you guys is that in Bodh Gaya, there are a lot of monasteries. And the Tibetan monastery, there was a statue of this Bodhisattva. And there was a plaque written. And there he's talking about the second coming of Buddha, Lord Maitreya. And I correlated that directly to the introduction in the seventh edition, where they talk about Merwan Irani born, when he was going to school, and then when he was when he was a schoolboy, he was reading the biography
He
of
related.
Buddha.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and immediately he said when that line came that the second coming of Buddha, Lord Maitreya, he said to himself, "That's me," and then he forgot
Yes,
about
yes,
it.
yes.
So what I've done is I've compiled that and I will send it to you because it's a very
Wonderful.
interesting, thing that confirmed to me about that coming from this source and then reading about it in our introduction. I'll send that link to you guys. Yeah. So there are some I mean, I had two Baba experiences. One, we were in the bus and we were stopped somewhere and my friend looked outside and there was a shopkeeper. There was a new shop being built and he was in cement, he was writing Baba House. Okay, that was one thing. That was very interesting. And then when
Yeah.
we were in Nalanda, there was auto rickshaw guy. Like we were like just walking there, and suddenly the auto rickshaw was right in front of me, and it just said Baba. Like I took those pictures. So it's like he's everywhere, as we all know. But he comes to you like this and reinforces our faith in him. So it's been very interesting.
Does it
Jai Baba.
happen more often to you? Do you need the reminders more than us, or you're more blessed than us? How do I
No, no,
interpret it?
nothing like that. No, no. Each one of us, no, no. Each one of us have different experiences. Some people dream of Baba, some people see him. For me, it comes through these kind of different signs. So I'm going to Banaras and I hope to go again to all the Baba places. And of course, I'm going to Allahabad for the Kumbh Mela. And I hear that you also have
Yes, yes,
got a chance
yes.
to. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Looking
yeah,
forward. And
yeah.
depending on all the craziness from a crowd perspective, we'll see if we can meet there. I don't know. Otherwise, of course, we meet in Mehrabad. Okay, so on this note, I was requesting Pandu. How are you?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, Jay
you've been
Baba. Hi,
silent.
everyone.
I hope this is helpful, this is enjoyable, and this is something you're relating to.
It's quite helpful, and I'm slowly getting, sinking into this God speaks and everything. But the place where I came from, there are so many beautiful stories. The people experience the Baba because they never heard about Baba. Another thing is those people are not educated, right?
True.
Just they heard the word of Baba, and even they can't read, even they can't, they don't have any proper education. But they felt Baba in many forms. Like Baba, some felt that okay, Baba saved from the accident, and somebody
Mm,
blessed
mm,
with somebody, like they seen the Baba as well. And there's stories, some saying that okay, Baba appeared in the dreams and saying that my father is going to die in 10 days. He cried in front of us, and that was
mm,
exactly happened. That's what of the
wow.
day. So there's so a number of stories. And
Wonderful.
So I will document all this, and even how I also got so many beautiful memories, and I experienced Baba, like uh, even my father also. So
Lovely, lovely.
that's the reason I will always keep silent and I'm listening, and also that the journey is completely different with Baba. That's what I can say, and it's going to be like, it's not like always smooth, but always going to be
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah. You have to get prepared for everything, so that what exactly happens. And so for instance, for us, like we can read the books, like, and we refer something to the god or other form of gods and all those stuff. But the people who doesn't understand anything and they don't know about the Baba, then they started experiencing the Baba. It's got something is amazing.
True, 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 true. Anyway, thank you so much. Just checking. And we'll stay connected and look forward to your participation. At some time, we'll also arrange a session where you talk about you and your father and experiences that you have had at the center from the day it was created. So we'll do that sometime. Thank you so
Definitely.
much. Have a great Sunday, everybody. And we will see, and a great week ahead. We will catch up next week. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba
Jai
ki jai.
Baba.
Jai.
Jai Baba.